Happy Saturday, wherever you are in the world. What's going on? Welcome back to the Wingy. And oh my God, we got a loaded podcast today. So much to get into. We've got sad news. We have interesting news. We have hilarious news. We have train wreck news. And we just have regular news. Plus, we got a pay-per-view to predict, AEW Dynasty, tomorrow night. By the way, we're going to be here for a live watch-along and review tomorrow evening, so make sure you join us. We'll be going live about 10 minutes before the main card starts, and then we will stick around and do a review after the fact. So just keep that in mind for tomorrow, and we are going to be predicting AEW Dynasty kind of near the end of today's podcast. But we have a lot to get into, including the very, very sad and tragic news regarding Kevin Owens, who is out of his Wrestlemania match with Randy Orton due to a neck injury. We're going to talk about that. We'll also talk about CM Punk's favor that was finally revealed last night on Smackdown and the absolute train wreck of a promo between Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton. Apparently, they went off script a little bit, which seemed kind of obvious the way the whole promo was flowing. We'll talk about that and what's going on with them and their WrestleMania match. We'll talk about Rusev reportedly signing with the WWE. Bret Hart has some absolutely insane opinions on AEW that he shared on the Ariel Helwani show, which I found downright hilarious, and I'm really going to unpack that, so stay tuned. We're also going to talk about a handful of AEW injuries. Tony Khan had some interesting things to say on this week's Dynasty media call. Also, we have some signings in AEW and WWE to get into. We'll talk a little bit about Monday Night Raw and what they did last week, but we were already here for a review for that, so we'll just give that a quick recap. We'll run through all of last night's SmackDown, including the favor, the Tiffany Charlotte stuff, the Kevin Owens stuff, and a couple of WrestleMania matches were added last night. I think 2, possibly 3, although I have not seen an official Mania graphic for the Street Profits and Machine Guns yet, but I think that's happening. Also, Rey Fenix debuted last night as well. We'll run through the current WrestleMania card, which I believe is up to 11 or 12 matches now, and we'll kind of give a quick recap of this past Wednesday's Dynamite, because even though we're going to predict the pay-per-view and, most of that show is now obsolete, a couple of things happened on Wednesday that I found interesting that I want to discuss. And like I said, we will be predicting the entire Dynasty card, which as of today, my count is about 9 matches. So we're probably going to get a couple of extra ones added because I didn't see anything advertised yet for the pre-show or the 0 hour or whatever. So I would have a feeling that we could get as many as 3 more matches added to this already loaded 9-match card for tomorrow if you include the 0 hour stuff. So that's kind of what's on the menu today. Thank you for being here earlier. My Saturdays at my career job are getting earlier and earlier. That means the podcasts have to go live earlier and earlier. So we are up here a bit earlier than normal. I think 2 p.m. is probably going to be the normal time going forward here around that time here on Saturdays instead of 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Just about an hour earlier is what we're going to be doing from here on out. Before I get into the shoutouts, let me let you know, what is going to be happening here in the next couple of days. Now, I just told you about tomorrow's Dynasty watch-along and review, so make sure you're here for that, of course. Also, no Raw stream on Monday. I'm going to have a very weird Monday through Friday work week this week, so I'm not going to be home on Monday night to watch Monday Night Raw, which will be back here in the States, and there are some big things already advertised for that, so I think we're going to have some final pushes for Mania, whatever's going on with Rhea and Bianca and Io. That's going to be hammered out on Monday, and I'm sure they will probably book that triple threat, so I will not be here to watch Raw with you or review it Monday night, but if we get some really notable things happening, I'm going to pop up here on Tuesday and give you guys a review. The reason I'm working Monday through Friday because my plan is to take 1 week from tonight off. Next Saturday, April 12th, we're going to do a big Saturday night's Greg event. We're going to do a primetime podcast, maybe not primetime, but later in the evening podcast, probably after Collision wraps up. And that is where we are going to celebrate our 15-year anniversary on YouTube. Technically, the anniversary is Friday, April 11th, but that's not really a good day to do a live stream, so I think I'm going to take the day on Saturday, and we're going to do a big live celebration next Saturday. I'll post a link and some information about that show here in the next couple of days, so just stay tuned, but it's going to be a long podcast like normal, and we're going to add in a big, fun Q&A, so you can save your questions for that night for the chat. Obviously, the super chat questions will get answered first. We can, go through the chat and answer everything you want to answer, and also my email is goodmikework@gmail.com. You can also send questions over there. I will be peeking at my email throughout the week, and if any questions come in over there, I'll dump them into a document and answer them one by one next coming Saturday. So we will be here 1 week from tonight, kind of having a fun little celebration. And I also have a little fun video planned for you guys that night as well that I've been working on for the past couple of weeks, and I will be showing you that. So 1 week from tonight, big old celebration here on the channel, just a week before WrestleMania. So this will be your last normal wingy, your last normal Saturday podcast until after WrestleMania, because next week we'll be here for the prime time one, and then the week after that is night one of WrestleMania, which we will be here watching together. So it's going to be a couple of weeks before you see me back in this form on a Saturday. So just keep that in mind and buckle up. It's going to be fun. In terms of what else you guys are going to get this week, I had a funny little botch, I guess you could call it. Yesterday, I've been uploading my 40 for 40 shorts and 40 nights, just giving a quick little recap of some of my memories of each and every WrestleMania. Well, yesterday was the first day I just straight up forgot to post it. I've got a bunch of them recorded. I just, take a quick minute, edit them, plunk in some pictures, load them. It's a 25-minute project, no big deal. But yesterday, I just straight up forgot to release the Mania short. And I realized it when I was in the car going to work. I'm like, oh shit, no big deal. I'll drop 2 of them this morning before the podcast. So last night, I think WrestleMania 26 is up next. I have all of them recorded through like WrestleMania 35. I still got a couple more to do. So I pulled up the audio for WrestleMania 26 and something's wrong. It's unusable. The audio is glitchy or something happened in the recording. All the other Manias are fine. 27, 28, 29, 30, they all are fine. But for some reason, 26 isn't working. I'm going to have to re-record that audio. And since I want to upload these WrestleMania shorts in order, I don't want to upload 27, 28, 29 until I give you 26. So basically, I owe you yesterday's short. I owe you today's short. So what I'm going to do is between now and tomorrow evening, before we get to Monday, you're going to get 3. You'll get 25, you'll get 26, 27, and 28 will all be dropped on the channel by Monday morning. That will put us all back on track, and we will still have all of the shorts uploaded before WrestleMania in just 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks from tonight is night one. So I apologize, those of you who look forward to those little mini shorts once a day, just me recapping my memories. I'm sorry about the 2-day delay, but I'll catch you back up, hit you with 3 of them tomorrow, pepper them throughout the day. So just keep a lookout for that. And that's pretty much all I've got to tell you for this week. We're going to be here next Saturday for everything. And then if I can get up here midweek to talk about Dynamite or Raw or anything like that, we will. So just keep that in mind. I'm not quite sure what I can give you midweek quite yet because things are so busy. But 1 week from tonight will be a party up in here. Link will be coming in the next day or two. Other than that, let's go over to the chat here, do some quick shout-outs, say hello to everyone, and then let's get into some news, man. We got a lot to get into. Jay Lambo, good to see you. Melissa, Tatanani, Gilbert Arbalo, Ryan Adams, William Cullen. We got David Brown, Damian Drain, Chris FX. We've got the new one. Don't fire me. I would never fire you, Vontae. Rarely even. Thank you so much, dude, for that $10. The Tiffany Charlotte segment would have been fine if it had ended with Tiffany's final line, but Charlotte just cannot stand someone getting over on her. She just won't let it happen. Charlotte Flair is off the charts levels of unlikable. She is a horrible fucking person. And I'm not one, you guys know me, been listening to me for 15 fucking years. I'm not the type of person that just automatically jumps on a hate bandwagon. That's for the IWC to do. 98% of them do that. I like to go against the grain. I don't like to just jump on a hate bandwagon and pile on. But Charlotte is fucking insufferable. I mean, my God, we're talking Elon Musk levels of gross. And I'm sick of her ass. Sick of her and this bullshit. First, it was that belt swap stuff with Becky Lynch. Then that little slap fight she had with Nia Jax. Now this. She does not get along with people. And I just think she's so unliked by her peers and the fans. And WWE is going to continue to shove her up our asses. And that is starting to bug the shit out of me. Especially if and when she probably wins the title at WrestleMania from Tiffany Stratton. We'll get into that train wreck of a segment here in just a little bit. Isaac, good to see you, man. Props to Kevin for giving us 2 good matches with Cody and Sammy while having an injured neck, right. Wishing him a speedy and healthy recovery. Same here, dude. Spartan Sprinkles, good to see you. We got Shane in the house, Ben Espinoza, Mike Rouse, Brandon McNeil, Rodrigo, Rarely Even's got 5 more. Alternatives for Randy. Sammy fights on KO's behalf. Nick Aldis, Aleister Black, debuts and beats Randy. Nobody's mentioning Miro. Does nobody remember that 10-second SummerSlam loss in 2017 except me? I'd bring back Miro to avenge that, but I'm going to tell you who I think Randy's opponent is going to be, and it may surprise you because one thing you got to remember when we're all fantasy booking Randy Orton's WrestleMania opponent, you got to remember that Randy Orton was probably going to win at WrestleMania. So if you bring back an Alistair or a Miro, you're changing that win into a loss. And WWE probably wanted Randy to win to justify a future title match against John Cena if he wins the title. So if they want Randy Orton to keep his win at WrestleMania, he can't face Miro or Aleister Black. He's going to have to face the man he RKO'd last night on Smackdown. We'll talk more about that. Good to see Vontae. Thank you, man. The new one in here with $5. This might be a bit controversial, but do you think Brock Lesnar could show up during the Punk Rollins Reigns match? I don't want him to, but I think that maybe it's possible. I think WWE might touch Brock Lesnar again one day. I'm just not sure. But man, imagine if Brock didn't get implemented in that lawsuit and we had Reigns, Punk, and Brock all vying for Heyman's attention. That would be some quality TV. And then Heyman just disses them all and aligns with Seth. That would be crazy. Maybe Brock. I don't know if I want to see Brock at Mania. I don't know what kind of a reaction he'd get. I think the fans would pop. Titanium Titan, Zach Powell gets the Sonic Plays, Daniel Barry Sports, Colin Wright. We got Denny Downbad. We have Mike Games version 1, West Coast Jams, Doug Unfunny, Transferring Heat, Blicky, Michael Brown, anybody else that is saying hello in the chat. Thank you. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here, and I hope you're having a great Saturday. I'm having a great one. The windows are open. It's a beautiful, sunny, 73-degree day, not a cloud in the damn sky. Perfect breeze coming in here. It is an absolute pleasant day here in San Diego. And I hope it's a pleasant day wherever you guys are living in the world right now. All right. Let's get into news. Later on, we're going to be getting into a full SmackDown recap, but at the top of my news, I want to talk about one big segment that happened last night on SmackDown involving Kevin Owens. And unfortunately, there were some reports circulating around online yesterday prior to SmackDown that Kevin Owens suffered an injury and he's likely going to be out of his WrestleMania match. During SmackDown last night, Kevin Owens came out, and you could see by the look on his face that this news we heard was probably legit. He was out there in his Bret Hart jacket, his Finn Balor t-shirt, and he announced to the fans that he did suffer a very serious neck injury that would require surgery, and he's going to be out indefinitely. And he kind of phrased it and framed it in a way like he didn't know when he would ever be in front of us again. And when it comes to neck injuries, that's not like, oh, you broke your ankle or you got a bad tore ACL or something. Those are all serious. It puts you out for a long time, but they're generally recoverable. Neck injuries, as we've seen with so many people, with the Steve Austins and the Edges and the Big E's and whatnot, and Owens' issue might be completely different than them. But anytime you're dealing with a neck, Kurt Angle is another good example. Necks are funny and they can be career enders. And Owens, with the style he wrestles, every time he does that, I've cringed for the past 15 years. Watching Owens do that, that fisherman buster, from the middle rope, and he kind of twists him. Every time I see that bump, it looks so brutal. And it's one of Kevin Owens' signature moves, and the toll that must take on your spine and your body. I'm not saying that's what caused his injury. As a matter of fact, Owens said the injury happened in a regular match that took place in January. So it wasn't the match with Cody Rhodes at the Rumble, and it wasn't the match with Sammy at the Chamber. He was working through those matches with an injury. And the doctors were trying to figure out what was wrong, and they did, and they discovered that he's going to need surgery, which means he is out of WrestleMania. Gilbert Arbalo, we are done with the Perk Angle. No more of that. It's disrespectful. So Owens was kind of pouring his heart out, and you're kind of watching this and you're like, this angle, is so personal. The whole point of this angle is so Randy Orton can kick Kevin Owens' head clean off his shoulders, essentially ending his career anyway. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, WWE, I think it would be in poor taste to make an angle out of a neck injury, especially when you have people like Big E who are dealing with this, and it's a very serious thing, and it's probably a fear of many wrestlers getting some sort of serious neck injury. So I would not, if this was a work, I would have made it a leg. I would have made it a leg. Owens tore his ACL. I'd come out there in a walking thing and crutches, and then take it all off and reveal it was fake. A neck injury, you could kind of tell the way Owens was speaking that this is 100% legit. This is not part of the storyline at all. And I think everybody in the crowd should have realized that as well. And I'm pretty sure they probably did based on Owens' demeanor. So he was very somber, and he announced that he would have to leave to go get surgery. Nick Aldis was in the ring with him as well. And that meant that the match with Randy Orton was off. So after Owens says his piece, Randy Orton's music hits. Now, if this was going to be some sort of a work or whatever, then this is where we would know. Because Randy Orton in storyline shouldn't give a shit that Owens needs surgery. He should still want to hurt him, you know? Like, this should make Randy happy, if anything else. Or Randy should come out and say, hey, since you're going to get surgery anyway, let me go ahead and kick your head in right here. Randy Orton shouldn't show any sympathy towards Owens at all, based on the nature of this feud. So when Randy comes out, and Owens and him, they have that little moment on the ring apron, and Randy says something to Owens. You don't hear him, but he says something to Owens. You could tell that was personal. Like, I'm sorry, man. Get well soon. Love you. Whatever he said. They had that little moment, and then Owens walked off. So if this was a work or in storyline, Randy Orton would not care about doing the right thing. Randy Orton's the Viper. He punts women's heads, you know, so he would have no problem with attacking Kevin Owens right here based on what Kevin Owens did to him, hitting him with that pile driver, knocking him out of action for months. So this would be Orton's way of kind of getting revenge on that. Hey, you're going to be out with neck surgery. I'm going to make sure you're out for 2 years. So you could tell this was not part of the story. This was not a work. That's really unfortunate. And Orton allowed Kevin Owens to walk away. And then he gets in the ring with Nick Aldis. And Nick Aldis then says, like an idiot, states the obvious here, because Owens announced he's out of his WrestleMania match. So Aldis decides to get on the mic in front of Randy Orton and say, that means, Randy, you don't have a WrestleMania match. And then what happens? Randy Orton just straight up RKO's Nick Aldis right there in the middle of the ring, which he will get fined for, but he's already paid it. Remember when he RKO'd Aldis? When was that? A few months back? And he got fined $50,000, and he gave Aldis a check for $100,000. And Aldis is like, what's this about? He goes, that's for the next one. Well, there's your next one. So at least his fine is already paid. So what does that mean for Randy? Well, first of all, before we get into what that means for Randy Orton, Kevin Owens is one of my favorite wrestlers in the entire world. Top 5 easily. He is a hilarious guy. He's a great worker. He has some of the same loves of the history of the business that I do. Big Bret Hart fan, of course. You know, he comes from Montreal. The relationship between him and Sami Zayn, everything he's done before WWE to WWE, I've been a massive fan of his career. And I think he's one of the best, not only wrestlers, but best people that you can ask for in wrestling. Just a completely cool, down-to-earth dude, well-liked by everyone. All the women have great relationships with him. He's not creepy. He's not weird. He's not a perv. He's just a nice, normal guy who everybody loves. And when it happens to these people, that's when you feel the worst, because Kevin Owens is just one of those wrestlers where you just don't want to see things like this happen to him. He doesn't deserve it. You know, he deserves the world. He deserves way more than one world championship run in 2016. And we have no idea how long he's going to be out. He didn't really address what the issue was. If it was, you know, like a disc problem, maybe he's got a fusion, something like that. That fusion surgery will keep you out minimum of a year. If it's some other procedure, maybe not. But anytime you're dealing with a neck surgery, I don't really see how you come back faster than a year. Feels like years is the minimum for most neck procedures, I would think. So it may be a full year until we get Kevin Owens back. And if it is in that year-long range, what does that mean? WrestleMania 42. So Owens might miss this one, but let's hope he's back for WrestleMania 42. And let's also hope that whatever this injury is, isn't a career ender. We're talking about a neck here. There's a very good chance, well, maybe not very good, but there's a chance that Kevin Owens' last match ever was against Sami Zayn. Let's hope that's not the case. Let's hope he comes back, but it is possible. So all the best to Kevin Owens. I'm really going to miss him. He's one of my favorites. And I was looking forward to the match at WrestleMania with Randy Orton, even though I think Owens was going to lose. Now, like I said, Aldis made the mistake of telling Orton, well, now you got no WrestleMania match, and he eats an RKO. So what does that mean? Who is Randy Orton's opponent going to be? Because he's not going to be left off the card. He's not going to be chucked in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. They will make it right for him. And luckily for Randy Orton, there are options out the ass. And I talked about that earlier when somebody brought that up in one of the Super Chats. You know, a lot of people are fantasy booking this, and I can appreciate that. I'm doing the same thing. One of the first names that came to my mind was Miro, who was reportedly signed with WWE, was spotted at WWE headquarters. We'll talk about that in a minute. Mike Johnson broke that news earlier this week, I think on Tuesday. And I think back to that SummerSlam match. One of the last things Rusev did, well, no, I guess that was 20. He was around for a little while longer than that. He got released in 2020, but it felt like in 2017, he was really being shit on. That was the year, right? It was 2017. It was Rusev versus Randy Orton, and Randy beat him in 10 seconds at SummerSlam. So Rusev coming back and avenging that loss, beating Randy Orton would be great. You could also debut Aleister Black and have him beat Randy Orton. But why I don't think any of those work is because WWE probably planned to have Randy Orton win at WrestleMania. They probably had him planned to win at WrestleMania in order to justify giving him a title shot against new champion John Cena, probably at Backlash. And Randy Orton's built up enough, legacy, in his career that he doesn't necessarily need to win at WrestleMania to get a title shot. But it would be better, if he did. So if Randy Orton was going to face Miro or Aleister Black, that would change his WrestleMania victory into a WrestleMania loss. Is that what WWE wants to do? Would Randy be okay with that? Hey, Randy, I know you're going to have this big, great winning moment at WrestleMania. You're going to lose now. It's not Randy's call. I'm sure if it means, helping Miro or Aleister Black get into the company in the right way, Randy Orton will be happy to do business. But that might kind of derail what they had planned for Randy. So if they need to keep his WrestleMania match a victory, there really is only one option. Nick Aldis. You could bring Sami Zayn in, sure. Sami Zayn could come in and eat a loss to Randy Orton. They could do that. You could have Sami Zayn come back and say, hey, despite everything that me and Kevin Owens have gone through together, no matter how much it appears on the surface that we hate each other, he's my brother. And, the thing is, though, Kevin Owens' injury wasn't at the hands of Randy Orton. So I could see Sami coming back to defend Owens, but that wouldn't make sense as Randy isn't the one who injured him. So you could bring Sami Zayn back, I suppose, and there's enough story there to where you could write it to make it make sense if you wanted to. But whatever they do, I feel like they're probably going to want to keep Randy Orton's victory intact, which means a Nick Aldis match would be the best thing to do. Now, one reason that doesn't make sense is Nick Aldis is the GM. Yes, he used to be a wrestler, but this guy's never had a match in WWE at all. And the one he's going to have is at WrestleMania. And you've got some pieces of talent there that aren't on the card. Is Aldis really going to be able to come out on SmackDown and say, due to what happened to Kevin Owens and Randy Orton RKOing me, I feel like there's no one else I could put in the ring with Randy Orton, so I'll step up and do it myself. I'll fill in. I'm the GM. It's my responsibility to find you an opponent, so I'll be your opponent. Because I'm sure you could look at that roster and see a whole bunch of other guys. You know who's not on WrestleMania? Carmelo fucking Hayes. This is like the number one draft pick, right? Or whatever he was during the draft. He's done a big, giant, steaming bucket of shit ever since getting to the main roster. He's not even booked for WrestleMania. I don't want to see Nick Aldis in the ring when you got Carmelo Hayes on the bench. Fuck that. But that's probably what they're going to do. And I'm excited to see Aldis in the ring. That's kind of cool, I guess. But this is WrestleMania. If this was Backlash or if this was something else, then yeah, fucking throw Aldis in there. No big deal. Have him replace Kevin Owens. No big deal. This is Mania. This is Mania. So I don't know how I feel about an Orton and Aldis match. I like the match in a vacuum. When I look at it on paper, oh yeah, that'll be cool. There's a couple of RKOs setting that match up. It's not like there's no story there. But you've got people like Hayes, and you can throw out a bunch of other names who currently don't have a WrestleMania match right now, who should. So that's the only reservation I have about Orton and Aldis. But the reason Orton and Aldis makes sense is to preserve that Randy Orton win. So hit me with your suggestions there in the chat. Like I said, Miro, a.k.a. Rusev, has reportedly re-signed with WWE. This was broke by Mike Johnson, PW Insider, this Tuesday. And when you look at your calendar, I was looking at my phone, when you look at your calendar, Like, what are the odds of this? Go look at pull your calendars up right now. Go and look at Tuesday, which would have been April the 1st. It's Rusev Day. Can you believe that? The news of Miro signing with WWE broke on Rusev Day. That is quite the coincidence. It's an omen that things are really going to work out well for Miro and Rusev. Now, with Miro coming back in, he was spotted at WWE HQ. Apparently, no Lana was with him. Now, him and Lana have been remarried. They are back together. That's fantastic. If Rusev is coming in, I would expect Lana to come in at some point as well. Maybe they're going to bring him in first, bring her in later. I don't know. I would love for him to retain his Redeemer gimmick from AEW and come in as Miro, but I highly doubt WWE will do that. He's already built, kind of a history with the Rusev name over there. He'll probably go back to using that. I like Miro better than Rusev. I like the name better. I like the character better. So maybe it's going to be kind of a blend. He'll be Rusev, but he's going to adopt some of who he was in AEW into this new persona, I hope, at the very least. If he just comes back in as Rusev from Bulgaria, the evil foreign heel, I'm so fucking sick of that. But one cool thing would be, I mentioned the possibility of Miro being Randy Orton's opponent. I don't think that's going to happen because that means Randy would have to lose. But if it did, I would love Miro to come rolling up in on a tank. Like, have it be a mystery match. You don't know who Randy Orton's opponent's going to be. And then it's Rusev who comes rolling in on the tank like WrestleMania 31. That would be fucking awesome. So awesome. But anyway, happy that Miro, a.k.a. Rusev, is heading back to the WWE, and I have no doubt that Lana will join him at some point. Let's see here. Karrion Kross is reportedly in a contract year, so in terms of comings and goings, Rusev is coming. Karrion Kross, you know what? I hope he stays. I hope they re-up him, because I was a massive fan. When he first hit the scene in NXT, I'm like, holy shit, this guy is it. And then you quickly realized, oh, he ain't all that. Adam Cole completely just eviscerated him on the mic, and came up to the main roster in the dominatrix outfit, got beat by Jeff Hardy in 10 seconds. What a clusterfuck, And then he got released, and then he was controlling his narrative, and I've just never really given a shit about Karrion Kross at all. Except for when he first came in. Then there was that gap where I didn't care. And now recently, I'm liking kind of the things that he's doing behind the scenes. He's showing that he is an entertaining guy. He can handle the spotlight. He can handle the red light on. He knows how to talk. He knows, he comes across a little bit more genuine when he speaks, not looking like a shitty actor type of thing. He's got some chops to him, and him kind of going around and manipulating people, wearing his hair different to kind of match the person he's talking to, little things like that. I'm like, for the first time, now that he's dumped the Final Testament shit and they're all gone, I'm kind of getting a little bit more interested in seeing at least what he can potentially do. Now, he's been there a long time. He's had feuds with McIntyre, and he's done some other things that just hasn't panned out to anything that great, but I believe he's worth keeping around. I do. So I kind of hope Karrion Kross, if he is in a contract year, sticks around and can find something meaningful to do, because so far it's been nothing but swings and misses. But I'm seeing potential there, and I kind of like, I like Kross's demeanor lately on television. And if he sticks around, hopefully that means the lovely Scarlett will as well. All right, let's get into some AEW random news here, okay? Let's start with a couple of AEW injuries. We've got Orange Cassidy, Jay White, and Mark Davis all out with injuries. Orange Cassidy, I believe, is a possible torn pec. That's going to keep him out for a while. Jay White's got a broken foot that apparently requires surgery, and Mark Davis is out 6 to 8 weeks with an injury that's kind of unknown. So 3 big losses there. As a matter of fact, that pulled Jay White out of the Owen Hart tournament. I think he's going to be now replaced by a wild card, I believe, and we'll be getting into those Owen Hart tournament brackets here in just a little bit. Tony Khan held his media call this week ahead of AEW Dynasty, and I never have any interest in ever calling in and listening to one of these things. I just like to read the highlights online and on the news sites, and there was just a couple of things that he said in the media call that I found interesting. He was asked by our friend John Alba about Sting and Lex Luger for the WWE Hall of Fame. I'm sorry, he did not. That was not John Alba. John asked something else. Tony Khan commented on the Sting and Lex Luger situation, and that he said that he spoke to Sting a while back about it, but he hasn't been contacted according to him. So he didn't really say if he was willing to do it or not, but based on kind of, I thought I had the quote here and I've lost it. I must not have copied and pasted it. But anyway, I read it. And based on the way it sounded, I feel like if he's approached, he's going to say yes. And we've already talked about that till we're blue in the face. You know, I believe that Tony Khan is well within his rights to tell WWE to fuck off with all the shit that they've pulled. But at the same time, it's not really about them or AEW. It's about Sting, Luger, and the fans. And so I'm hoping that Tony Khan will allow Sting to induct Lex Luger. But if he doesn't, I'm not holding him responsible at all, and I'm not calling him petty. He has every right to be. But I think he should do it, and I hope he does. The question that John Alba asked was regarding the AEW and Max numbers. Now, Tony Khan told John that the AEW Max numbers are kept close to the vest, but everything that he's heard in the BJ Bethel report regarding Max viewership is consistent with what he's heard. Now, he's referencing this report that came out last week that was, I guess, estimating AEW's approximate viewership when you add the cable rating plus the Max rating. And they were coming up with a figure around 1 to 1.2 million viewers per week for AEW Dynamite. Now, I didn't really see the breakdown in terms of if it's just that one night, because, you know, a lot of people watch Dynamite the next day. How many people you think watch Dynamite the next day? 100,000? Something like that, maybe more. You know, so you got a lot of people recording and watching at different times and whatever. I don't watch Dynamite on Wednesdays. I'm at work. I watch it later, or I watch it the next day, or I watch it Saturday mornings before I do the podcast, something like that. Does that count? Like, so I'm an AEW Dynamite viewer whose view does not get counted, probably, because I'm not watching until a couple days after. I'm probably catching some clips online, some YouTubes, things like that. But if I want to watch the whole show, I'm tuning into that later on in the week. So basically, Tony Khan kind of backs up this in terms of these numbers. And of course, just a simple report like this, which is completely innocent, riled up a whole bunch of fans who absolutely hate this, the ones who have hate boners for AEW. They're just going to refuse. Nope, I don't believe these numbers. Nope, not true. Not going to believe it. Just not going to. Can't engage with people like that. They're fucking idiots. Shit for brains. You can't even do anything there. You know, all you have to do is use your common sense. And for all the people, the fans that pray for rain, you know, that pray for failure, AEW isn't going anywhere. And this ties into what Andrew Zarian said a week or so ago when he was talking about speaking to WBD execs. They don't care. They are and have always been happy with their AEW relationship. Even back when AEW was trying to negotiate that new deal and they were really in a rating skid, even during all that time, there was never a vibe out there that they were in any danger. You know, it was the bad faith guy. Oh, I think WBD is going to have to cancel them. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You were at the checkout desk at fucking Walgreens. Sit down. They are not going to go anywhere. They're in no danger. And we said that. They're going to resign. Tony Khan does his media calls. If there was any danger, you could see that in him. He'd be shitting his pants. He was fully confident that there is no risk whatsoever of them being dumped by Warner Brothers Discovery. They're going to re-sign a new deal. So then as soon as that new deal is re-signed, boy, they better get it together, otherwise they're going to be dumped again. So the fans are already kind of hoping and waiting for that next deal to see if they get canceled. They're not. As a matter of fact, on April 16th, which is a couple weeks from now, AEW Dynamite will be celebrating its 289th episode, which officially surpasses WCW Nitro. And they're going to celebrate it. They're going to celebrate it. They're booking like a spring break thing, I think in the Boston area for that Dynamite. And I like the little jab at Eric Bischoff because Eric Bischoff has been an absolutely obsessed psycho, crazy hate erection for AEW ever since Tony Khan made some comments that pissed him off, and he's been a fucking madman about it ever since. Obsessed, crying, drooling, slobbering dickhead. Completely obsessed with another man and his company that now has surpassed his very own show on TNT, Monday Nitro, back in the day. So I think that's great. Obviously, it's apples and oranges. the yeah buts. Oh my God, the yeah buts. Oh my God, the haters yeah butted the fuck out of that. Yeah, but they weren't as strong as Nitro. Yeah, but they didn't get the ratings. Yeah, but they still lasted longer. So fuck you. And plus, you cannot compare ratings back then to ratings of today. Look at the last couple of years. Look at the last year of Monday Nitro. Take any Monday Nitro from the last 6 months they existed, and look at the rating for that show. It beat Raw and Smackdown this week. That tells you all you need to know about how different the ratings are. You cannot compare 1998 WWE to 2025 AEW. That's idiotic. Because even when Nitro was at its worst, it would have demolished Raw or SmackDown's ratings and beat AEW even worse. Ratings were different then. I lived through it. A lot of fans that have all these opinions weren't even born. I lived through those days. If you wanted to watch wrestling, you had to watch it that night or program your VCR to tape it, which means you're still tuned into that channel that night. You can't watch it on YouTube the next day. You can't catch the results online later that night. You can't DVR it and watch it in 2 days. You can't sign into your streaming platform and watch it there. You can't watch it on your phone. You can watch it in one place. Your fucking TV, your fucking house. That's it. That's how the ratings were. That's why they were so high. You have to tune in on that night. Now you don't. And this is not just defending AEW. This is defending WWE's numbers too. There's not just 1.4 million people watching Raw every week. It's probably 2.4 or 3 or more because you have people watching all different times. It's on Netflix now. You know, people watch the next day. People watch it live. People watch it 3 days from now. Or they don't watch it at all. They just catch a recap package on YouTube that's not even uploaded by a WWE account. There are so many people, so many more people watching Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, and Collision than what the ratings are telling you. So when it comes to all this ratings discourse, you know, I don't think wrestling maybe is hitting the numbers they were in 1998. Don't get me wrong, but it's silly to think that if you read 600,000, that's what you see from the haters. It's the same 600,000 people. No, it isn't. That's the one metric from that channel. That's the rating from cable TV is the 600,000. What about Max? What about YouTube? What about people DVRing? What about people watching the show a week later? All of those things apply to both companies. They apply to WWE. They apply to AEW. You guys, these haters should know this. They live in this world. They live in the world of having 9 devices in your house, the ability to record, to watch later, to catch highlights, to do all this stuff. The way we consume television, sports, movies, entertainment, wrestling, all of that is drastically different than it was in 1998. I was 22 years old in 1998. I remember. How old were you? So a lot of that stuff, when this report came out about the ratings, why are we mad? No way that's true. Dude, go outside. The sun is shining, man. Fucking Christ. The anger and the outrage. So between this ratings report and the announcement that AEW was going to be celebrating passing WCW Nitro, I think some of these little shits were throwing themselves off of bridges. They were absolutely losing their minds, you know, and it's just reached a comical level now. But it gets better because no matter how much fans pray for rain and failure, they're going to be disappointed. And it got even better when Bret Hart went on the Ariel Helwani show this week and had some interesting things to say. Now, first of all, we all know Bret the Bitter Man Hart, my GOAT, my favorite wrestler of all time. If you go to my Twitter page, picture of me and him is pinned right there. I've talked about Bret Hart and how much I idolized him for 15 years, a decade and a half on this channel. He's my absolute number one. And what have I said so many times about Bret? You can love him all you want, but that doesn't mean I have to agree with everything he says. And he's said a lot of things over the years. I am a Bret Hart shoot interview junkie. I've seen every interview Bret's ever done before podcasts became a thing. And he's made some asinine claims in the past, ones that I don't even agree with. One of the claims he's made in the past, that he didn't blame Bill Goldberg at all. It's just an accident. I like Bill. He's a great guy. He didn't mean it. Just an accident. No big deal. That's what happens in wrestling. He said that in more than one shoot interview. Fast forward to modern times, Bill Goldberg is a piece of scumbag shit. So what changed? What changed, Bret? And he's had a lot of just kind of, Bret is a hilarious, I don't know if he's trolling or what's going on, but if you're an AEW fan, if you're an AEW freakazoid or whatever, or the sickos, don't be mad at Bret. Don't be mad at Bret. I'm as flabbergasted by what Bret Hart said as anybody else, and we're going to talk about it, but I'm not mad because this is right in line with Bret Hart's, the way Bret is. And he's a lot like Meltzer. You know, fans get themselves so mad at Dave Meltzer. And I'm like, you know who you're reading? Read Meltzer. You know, you're the one don't read his shit if you don't like it. But if you are going to read his shit and you are going to listen to him for news, you have to read it understanding who's writing it. You know, and like fans don't do that. You know, so just mad. The first instinct is always be mad. So with the AEW sickos and the freakazoids mad at Bret, just chill. He didn't even know what the fuck he was saying here. I don't know if he was just doing a troll or if Triple H texted him, hey, just trash AEW just for fun. You know, and Bret just pulled something out of his ass because what Bret said made zero sense. Like none whatsoever. You got to hear this shit to believe it, okay? Here's what Bret Hart says in his Ariel Helwani interview. I hope you're sitting down. And I quote, when asked about if he watches the current product, and I quote, I try to watch the pay-per-views. I find in a lot of wrestlers, and I won't name anybody, but I find the wrestlers are more actors pretending to be wrestlers today than actual wrestlers. And I'm like, that sentence makes sense. I'm like, yeah, have you seen all the cinematic 45-minute Bloodline promo stuff WWE's done over the past couple of years? I agree with Bret here. But he wasn't talking about WWE. He says, I miss the ruggedness of the characters, guys like Kurt Hennig, myself, Dynamite Kid, that whole era of wrestlers that broke into the business in the late 70s and early 80s. We were from the Harley Race, Terry Funk generation, trying to copy them or mimic them. That's why I think the 90s was the best era of wrestling. Okay. Goes on to say, when I watched some of that old 90s wrestling, it was really good stuff. I find that today's wrestling is a little bit more about promos and your character on TV and not so much your work rate. Oh my God, I like guys that listen to this. I like guys that throw back a little bit more to the work rate. Roman Reigns is a guy that tries really hard to earn the respect of my generation and be more realistic and more credible and believable, not so much an actor. Bret, Roman is an actor. He's been in movies. He closes, I love this, with this wonderful sentence. I find that especially in AEW, I find they are mostly actors trying to pretend to be wrestlers, and they got to get on with real wrestling and quit acting so much. I will repeat that. I find that, especially in AEW, I find they are mostly actors trying to pretend to be wrestlers, and they got to get on with the real wrestling and quit acting so much, end fucking quote. Lord have mercy, where do we even begin here? This is coming from the biggest Bret Hart fan in the world. Bret, you are dead wrong about this one. Comically wrong. Hysterically wrong. Fall on the floor, pissing my pants in laughter, wrong. First of all, you've got the whole thing reversed. AEW is the company that focuses more on work rate than anyone else. WWE is the company that, according to the fans anyway, that focuses on the stories. AEW focuses heavily on wrestling and work rate so much that the haters think that it's turning off the casuals. They're just doing it for their niche audience. These shows are booked for their niche audience. So much of the flippy shit. This is not wrestling. It's choreographed. Guess what, Skippy? Everything is choreographed. Roman Reigns matches are fucking choreographed, you dumb dipshit. This is not real wrestling. They're flipping around. So this emphasis on work rate actually is something that the haters use as ammunition to why the company isn't doing well, or in their mind isn't doing well, when they're doing fine. They say it's because of all that focus on work rate where WWE has got these big cinematic stories and these big angles and all of these things that happen that don't have a whole lot of wrestling in them. They have acting, turns, betrayals, dialogue, all that stuff. You know, what The Rock did to Cody in front of his bus and Cena turning on Cody and all that bloodline shit. Paul Heyman, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins out there dressed like a fucking ballerina, laughing. What the hell is Bret Hart talking about? He's got the two companies reversed. And on top of that, AEW is a company that's about to launch a tournament in his brother's honor. It's hilarious. Now, Roman Reigns has been in movies. And for Bret Hart to say that they're actors trying to be wrestlers, Bret Hart once took time off from WWE to go film the TV show Lonesome Dove because, checks notes, he was trying to be an actor. That's what he was trying to do. Now, AEW still has some great stories. They've got Tony and Mariah May, Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page. But those stories I thought have been told in a really, really interesting way, in a way that didn't require the big, long promos that WWE does to get their shit over. I put up a tweet about that, which everybody thought was a dig at WWE. I'm like, no, you idiots. I was appreciating AEW's ability to tell equally compelling stories without needing to do those big promos. WWE uses those. AEW uses other things. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just different. And I appreciated that. But people are so caught up in this idiot war, this moron war, that all they saw was praise for AEW and shade was thrown at WWE. Why don't you just admit you're throwing shade at WWE? I like WWE. Why am I going to throw shade at a company that entertains me? That's fucking idiotic. I was simply complimenting. AEW had nothing to do with WWE. I just appreciated those stories getting over in that way. And in WWE, we see a lot of their big stories that also get over in major ways. They get over more by these big, massive in-ring segments that we have. Feuds over bracelets and shit like that. You know, where AEW, their stories are a little bit more personal, you know, the deep, deep, deep issue between Mariah May and Tony Storm and that whole saga, and the same thing with Hangman and Swerve. Those were really fun stories, and I liked the way they came together just as much as I liked the way Punk and Drew and Roman and all those guys came together when it was their time, Roman and Cody. You know, I appreciated those stories, and I appreciated AEW's ability to do good stories without having to mimic what they're doing in WWE. That's all. And it was just so telling because, unfortunately, that tweet got like 4,000 likes. So, of course, the idiots are going to come, out of the woodwork. But it's just like, man, I blocked some dipshit yesterday who was like, Bret Hart was right about AEW. And I'm like, this is how deep the brain rot goes. Because these people are so consumed and obsessed with their hate for another company that it doesn't matter what kind of shade you throw at that AEW. You can just make something completely up. Yep, they're right. I'm like, no, even an AEW hater has to hear those comments from Bret Hart and say, okay, he's being a little bit ridiculous there. Because now what are you going to do? Are you going to now switch your stance and pretend that all of a sudden AEW doesn't focus too much on work rate and now they're just trying to be actors and cinematic? No, they've got actually a pretty good blend of both, to be honest there. Where WWE runs a lot safer matches and things like that, and AEW goes crazy with the violence. As a matter of fact, in that media call, Tony Khan says they have no plans on stopping the violence. As a matter of fact, they're going to ramp it up because their fans like it. I got no problem with that. Good. So when you think about WWE's cinematic segments and AEW focusing on work rate, and to say that Roman Reigns is a work rate guy and Will Ospreay is a wannabe actor, holy shit. I mean, my God. And I swear to Jesus, I am not mad at Bret Hart at all. I find this funny. So if you're an AEW sicko or an AEW freakazoid, I'm an AEW fan, I'm a WWE fan. I like both. I defend both against the haters on the other side. I think all those people are fucking dumb. They all share the same brain. They're incredibly one-dimensional, and they're a dime a fucking dozen. Everybody is the same and thinks the same way when it comes to that stuff. And watching the fans twist themselves into a pretzel to make Bret Hart's comments right, it's not right. It's not even a matter of it's an opinion. He is objectively wrong. It's not even an opinion. He is saying something that is provably untrue. How is it provably untrue? Use your fucking eyeballs and watch the product. That's how you prove it. He's wrong about that. And that's okay, because Bret Hart is wrong about a lot of stuff. Doesn't change the fact that he's my favorite wrestler. I couldn't imagine Bret Hart saying anything that would turn me off enough to not care about him anymore. Unless he really shit on somebody wonderful, unless Bret Hart went on an interview tomorrow and said, you know what, I really hate Kevin Owens and I hope his neck injury is permanent and he never gets back in the ring. Then I'll be like, yo, what the fuck, bro? But come on. Bret's comments should always be taken with a grain of salt. And what was cool about these specific comments is they were so fucking crazy that you have to laugh. You can't let this get you mad. You cannot let this get you mad. So AEW fans, untangle your panties. It's not a big deal. This is Bret being Bret. I completely disagree with him, and I think this is one of the most insane things he's ever said. This is Hulk Hogan level of delusional here. But that's okay. He's Bret. And what Bret was saying, think about how common that is. The old heads, the old dogs. Every Ric Flair's like this. They're all like this. And today's generation will be like this when the next generation comes through. They all think their era was the best. Look at the NBA discourse. You can't even mention LeBron against a Larry Bird, a Michael Jordan, a Magic Johnson. No, LeBron would never win. It's like, okay, Jesus, chill out, man. So people really aggressively defend their eras, and that's the same in sports, and it's definitely the same in wrestling. You can watch podcasts, shoot interviews, and every old timer is always there. You're never going to hear one old timer say today's generation is way better than ours. They're always going to put over themselves and their own era and how their era was the best. Bret Hart saying that 90s wrestling was really the best. Does he not remember when he was in the WWE in the mid 90s with a fucking clown, a trash man, a plumber, a school teacher? Like all these silly ass fucking gimmicks. The Undertaker, what did he think all of that was? These are characters. These are men playing characters, acting as these characters. WWE was very character-driven in 1995. Everything was about the character. The Undertaker and Goldust and Diesel. Nobody was wrestling under their regular names. They were characters. It was a fucking clown show back then. And I loved, even though the new generation era is arguably one of the worst, I lived through that at a very impressionable time. I lived through the new generation era from, I don't know, I guess age 16 to 19 or something, so those were impressionable years on me. And so I do look back at them with fondness, but I'm not silly enough to say that was the best era. No, Mantar was not the best era. I'm sorry. Sorry, Bret. Just not true. But that can be debated, because that's just about what your favorite era was. But when Bret says there are too many actors trying to be wrestlers in AEW and WWE focuses on work rate, he fell or something. He fell down the stairs, the nuts and bolts got scrambled, and the words are coming out wrong. So, Bret, I hope you recover from your head injury. I don't know what's going on there. That was great. So anyway, I had to talk about the Bret Hart stuff because it was hilarious. Let me see. Other than that, we have a AEW signing. Kevin Knight, who recently had his deal expired with New Japan Pro Wrestling, is signed with AEW, and apparently he did have interest from WWE. He chose to go to AEW, and he automatically got put in the Owen Hart tournament, and he's going to be facing Will Ospreay. So going to WWE and going through their developmental NXT bullshit, or face Ospreay in the Owen, yeah, I would have picked that too. So welcome to AEW, Kevin Knight. We're going to wrap up with AEW here in just a bit, but let's switch gears now and move on back to WWE because we have to talk about Smackdown last night. Raw this past week, I have not caught, I usually write this down, but I did not see what is previewed for this week, so I'm not really sure what Raw has planned for Monday night. To be honest, I don't really know. But this past week, we saw Jey Uso and Gunther finally heating up as Gunther beat Jimmy to an absolute bloody pulp. I was a little bit disappointed with the emotion that Jey shown in that. I thought he could have been a little bit more enraged, but, Gunther choking out a bloody Jimmy, calling Jey a pussy, that was great stuff. And finally, it's gotten me to care about that match. John Cena got hit with Crossroads and that little exchange with Cody, which was their best one yet. And Bianca Belair wound up double DQing Io Sky and Rhea Ripley in their match, which makes me believe that either this week or next week, Adam Pearce will just finally be fed up and say, it's going to be a triple threat. That's what we're going to get. But last night on SmackDown was crazy, man. We got the favor revealed to us. Heyman and Punk opened up the show in the ring. Roman Reigns is not there yet, so Punk told Heyman that he will reveal the favor to Roman's face when he arrives. And that would be in the final segment of the night. We'll fast forward to that. Let me just get this straightened out here. Straighten me out. Sorry, I didn't like the way I was looking in there, guys. Sorry. But in the final segment, we get Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk and Paul Heyman all in the ring. And this is where CM Punk reveals the big favor. And I got to say, it was kind of a letdown. They kind of, showed their hand a little bit in that opening segment. I felt like when Punk said, what I say is going to affect Roman Reigns, I'm like, oh shit. We did talk about the possibility of the favor just being Heyman in Punk's corner, and that's what it was. CM Punk said that Paul Heyman will be his corner man, and then Roman, who had already agreed to the favor. Roman had said, whatever the favor is, you got it, no problem. He does not seem to give a shit, but he also really, really wants to know. So when Punk revealed the favor is Heyman is going to be in his corner, Roman Reigns is like, psh, wise man. Will you let this fool down easily, please? Basically like go tell him that that's not going to happen. You're with me. You need me. And Heyman, who is now just an emotional, blubbering wreck at this point. He's like a squirrel who's like trying to eat, just like a nervous wreck looking around. He's, bludgering and he's crying. And he's like, my tribal chief, I can't do that. And then Roman looks at him like, what? And then that's when Punk comes in with an attack, bonks. I love how they always bonk. The thing they do in WWE, they do it in AEW a little bit too, but it's really prominent in WWE is they always bonk your head with the microphone, with the cushy part, with the windscreen. But it makes a cool noise, so it sounds like it hurts, but just the microphone bonk is so funny to me. So Roman gets the bonk, and then Punk attacks him, picks him up, and hits him with a GTS, which I thought Roman sold beautifully. And that's the big favor. And by the way, when Punk announced that, or when Heyman said that he couldn't do that and couldn't let CM Punk down, the whole time this is going on, Rollins is laughing his ass off in the ring. He thinks this whole thing is hilarious, which I kind of found funny. So who do you guys think is going to win this match at WrestleMania? To me, there's only one option. It has to be Seth Rollins. It has to be Seth Rollins. He is owed this shit. Rollins is owed a victory from Cody, from Roman, and from Punk. Now, Rollins kind of got that victory in the cage match, but does that really count? And I've always believed that when Rollins gets in the ring again, one-on-one with any of these guys, he has to win. And now he's in the ring with two of them. And so 2 birds, 1 stone. He can get his win back over both. And I feel like now you've set up Heyman being in the middle of this thing is really going to be, the reason that Roman and Punk don't win. They're going to be so concerned with each other that it's going to allow Rollins to sneak in the back door and pick up the win at WrestleMania, which could put Punk and Roman then on a one-on-one feud program over the services of Heyman or something. And like somebody said, if Brock wasn't, a canceled, perverted, gross piece of shit, he'd be a perfect person to add to this. And then have those 3 battle, and then Punk can go off and or Rollins can go off on his own. But I feel like Rollins needs to win here. And there was one other kind of idea floating around that I've seen a lot. And I've seen people say, like, mark my words right now, Seth Rollins is going to, or Paul Heyman is going to turn on both Punk and Roman and align with Seth Rollins. No. I mean, you could do it, but why would you do that other than just shock factor alone? They haven't done any build or subtle teases to this. If they have, I've missed them. It would be completely out of the blue. It would shock the hell out of everybody. It would get a great reaction, but then what? Heyman is going to be backing up the man that shares a closet with his wife, coming out there dressed like literally he escaped a mental institution. Heyman, after having these prize fighters in his corner, is going to be with him. That just they seem like a weird pairing. So I don't see that happening. I don't want to see it happen. I don't think I'd want to see that happen any more than Heyman turning on Brock and joining the Big Show back in 2002. I thought that was silly. Why Heyman with Ryback was silly. There's some people, Heyman with Curtis Axel. You can't just stick anybody with him, And Punk and Brock and Roman have been the 3 that I think have been the biggest, Heyman guys. So this idea that Rollins is going to align himself with Heyman, what is Heyman going to do out there? Like, that's another thing. Heyman, or Punk said, Heyman, you're going to be in my corner, but other than psychological, what kind of an advantage is he going to give you? What's he going to do? Waddle back and forth and scream the whole time? Like, it's not like he can jump in the ring and hit you with a chair. He's 400 fucking pounds. Take him 5 minutes to get in the ring. So I don't know what he could really do other than give Punk a huge psychological advantage over Roman Reigns, who is now going to be, a little bit thrown off because he was assuming Heyman would tell Punk, no, Heyman can't do that. Now Roman maybe doubts himself or whatever, but I don't know. Is that even enough? There's not even a stipulation. There's nothing on the line in this match. They should at least put a title shot on the line, and that's why I think, and since we haven't gotten that stipulation yet, and I don't think we're going to, I think it's going to be an unannounced stipulation. I believe the stipulation already exists because Seth is going to win and then challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship. He may very well be challenging Jey Uso, or Gunther. But I think Rollins should get a title shot after this win here. And it'll probably be against the World Heavyweight Champion. And I think the reason they're not announcing that the winner of this gets a title shot is because then they'd have to announce which belt, and then if they don't, then you put yourself in the same situation where it's like a Royal Rumble winner. The winner of this match gets a shot against either one of those champions. Well, that's the same privilege the Rumble winner gets. So I feel like instead of announcing the winner gets a title shot, against Cody or Cena, they probably don't want to do that because they already know who Cena's opponent is going to be. It's probably going to be Randy Orton. So if they already know that, you can't really give the winner of this a title shot unless Rollins wins and then shows up on Raw the next night. I won the main event of WrestleMania. I'm in line for a title shot. And he would be right. So I feel like the winner of this match is going to get a title shot. They're just not going to announce it. So I feel like it might be Rollins and Jey and Gunther for the title and Cena and Orton for the title at Backlash, along with maybe a Randy Orton Randy Orton and John Cena match. But, then again, you got to wonder if John Cena beats Cody, Cody's not going to get a rematch at Backlash. A lot of people have Randy Orton and John Cena pegged for Backlash. It doesn't have to happen there. It could happen at the pay-per-view after, which is why you could book a Miro or a Aleister Black to come back and beat Randy Orton at WrestleMania. He could survive that, still get a title shot in a couple of months against John Cena if you wanted to run Cena and Cody back right away at Backlash, which would seem logical. If Cody's 1 year long run gets ended by Cena, they'd have to run it back, wouldn't they? Unless you do an angle where you knock Cody out. But is that what's going to happen? Cody's going to get injured at the end of WrestleMania and we're not going to see him for a month? We're going to see him the next night on Monday Night Raw. So it would be weird for Cody just to, take a step back and not be in the title picture for a minute? No. So, maybe it's a triple threat. Maybe it's Randy Orton and Cody and Cena or something like that. I don't know. But I think that Roman, Seth, and Punk, if Rollins wins, he'll wind up getting a title shot anyway. Okay, you guys ready? Before we get into this, if you haven't smashed that thumbs up button yet, please do that. Last night, Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton had an in-ring segment hyping up their WrestleMania match with Wade Barrett in there moderating this, and it went completely to shit. It was so weird and so awkward. These women do not mesh well at all. And it sucks that it takes something this messed up to get people talking about this feud. I saw that opinion a couple times today. Oh, it's got people talking. That's a good thing. This was not a good thing. There was nothing about this good at all. At all. And if that split screen shit they did a couple of weeks ago wasn't weird and awkward enough, this was worse. Although I think Tiffany came off a little better in this than she did. I think Charlotte kind of owned her in that split screen. Tiffany came off a little better here, although she wasn't perfect either. And they really kind of got personal in this. Now, according to a tweet from WrestleVotes, right after this segment happened, they said that the women did, in fact, go off script. I don't know how we go about confirming that or denying that, but I think we all have eyes and ears, don't we? So you watched it. Did that shit look like it was scripted to you? Not to me. Looks like two women, they're just talking over each other. Charlotte has got this extreme unlikability to her. And she's always been this way, where she will not let anybody get anything over on her. She just can't do it for the life of her. Nobody can ever get the last word. Nobody can ever put her down on the microphone. Nobody can ever come out like The Rock and say, "Shut up, bitch," and then she won't say anything. She's going to have to immediately say, "Ah," you know. She was even squawking like a bird in this promo, imitating Tiffany. I mean, Jesus Christ. You know, this woman is fucking off the charts unlikable. And earlier in the day, or earlier this week, she did an interview with, I lost the name. I had a transcript written, but I decided no. She did an interview with, where the hell did it go? Sherry Shepherd, is that her name? I've lost her name. I had a little bit of the transcript of that, but I seem to have lost it. But she was on an interview this week with, did an interview with Sherry Shepherd, the Sherry Shepherd Show. I don't even know who that is. But she got really, really in-depth about her divorce from Andrade and talked about how hard it was for her. And she felt like she was a failure, her third divorce, and she's going to be compared to her dad. And she really, really opened up about a lot of that. And we don't know what happened there with her and Andrade. It's none of our business. I saw one thing floating around that he cheated on her. And if he did, then fuck him. But I really think it's stupid to float that around without any sort of concrete proof. You can't do that to people. So we don't know. But if it was something like that, then that's unfortunate for Charlotte. That's not her fault in that situation. Maybe she just needs to screen husbands a little closer. I don't know. But she really opened up about that situation. So then last night, during that promo, after the crowd is, oh my God. I mean, this isn't Dominic Heat. The fans like to boo Dominic. The fans hate Charlotte. And that was never more evident than when she came back after that long year off. And she came out there in that yellow shit looking like a fucking banana and tries to cut a serious promo while the fans shit all over her. It does not matter how long she's gone from TV. It does not matter what she goes through or what she's going through. The fans do not like her. And like I said earlier, I'm not one to jump on a hate bandwagon. Whenever I see the IWC or the wrestling fans kind of start piling on, I'm always going to be the one going in the opposite direction because I hate to conform. I hate to have such a one-dimensional brain and just do what everybody else does and follow the leader. I hate that. Just on principle, I hate that. But this is one situation where I am jumping. I'm the first one on that bandwagon. I'm in the front row because I cannot stand this woman. Just the sight of her, it just makes me sick. And you just seen too many, we've seen too many situations like this where Charlotte's real personality comes out. And we saw it with the Nia Jax thing in that match where they're slapping each other. The belt swap abomination with Becky Lynch that was just like, God, what are you doing? And now this couple of segments now with Tiffany to where it feels like Charlotte just struggles to have chemistry with people. And if anybody starts getting over on her or looking good, it is her determination to shut that down, to cool off whatever's getting hot. And I don't know if it's an ego thing or what, but she just sometimes can't help herself in promos. And last night when the fans were booing her, I mean, hardcore to where it rattled her. You could see she didn't know how to respond to the boos. And that's weird because she's a 10-year vet by now. She's been a heel for a large portion of her career. She's been shit on before. She's been booed before. She can handle this, or so I thought. But she was clearly thrown off her game there. And then it's both women trying to one-up each other at the same time. That's the problem they had in the split screen, talking over each other. And then Tiffany kind of flubs up a line where she was going to say, like, you're not the queen of shit. And that's when Charlotte starts doing the squawking thing or whatever. So that line didn't land. And then Tiffany says, I don't even think she said the word divorce, but she mentioned Charlotte being 0 for 3, which we all know what that was referencing. And that was a good line. And I think it should have ended there. And whatever she said about 0 for 3, and she leaves the ring. And then Charlotte can't help herself, pipes up and says, hey, Tiffany, is that why Kaiser is in my DMs? What? What? I mean, obviously Kaiser and Tiffany are, a well-known couple as they post things online all the time, but WWE's never really referenced the relationship, I don't think. And for Charlotte to reference that and then say Kaiser is in her DMs, what the hell is she talking about? Does she mean when she was hurt, Kaiser hit her with a DM, said, hey, wished her well? Was it something innocent and she just uses that as a line? Later on last night, it was late in the morning because I stay up super late, Kaiser tweeted the clip of Shawn Michaels and Diana Hart from 96 when he was feuding with Bulldog, and Bulldog was saying that Shawn came on to Diana. And Kaiser posted the clip of Shawn saying to Diana, Please do not flatter yourself. So I thought that was funny. Excellent reference by the young fellow, Kaiser. He's probably not that young, but whenever today's generation is referencing angles and knows, and Kaiser has been a fan long enough to know that segment prior to Beware of Dog, to post that clip, I'm like, good for you, Kaiser. I might make fun of your very slender and hairless body and your weird ass haircut and your way too tiny ring trunks, but I'm starting to come around on Ludwig Kaiser. And I don't know what that comment was about. I don't know what Charlotte means. If you're Ludwig, I'm sticking with Tiffany. I'm sorry. I'm not going to be hitting on Charlotte. So I don't even get that, and why, she even, and why she said that, and why she said that so quickly. It makes you wonder if that was scripted, but that would make no sense. All you have to do is watch this segment. Because I saw some people online today like, how do you know it was not scripted? Because I can see. That's why. I can hear too. Can't you? Any idiot could watch that and say something was wrong there. There's no way that was all planned. And so if people are coming out and say that was they were going off script, that was kind of fucking obvious. Stating the obvious there. So that whole thing was an absolute train wreck. Didn't make either woman look particularly good. And WWE even immediately edited out those lines out of the digitals, like the YouTube clips and stuff. So you didn't get any line about the divorce and about Kaiser and whatnot. So what happened when they got back there? That's what I want to know. Was Triple H just sitting there waiting, like shaking his head? What the fuck, man? Like what was the reaction? Did we read any of that? Did you guys see? Did Fightful or any of our friends post any story about what the reaction was behind the scenes when they came through the curtain? Did they have any words? What did they say in the locker room? What was the temperature of the water in that women's locker room when they walked back in there and everybody's going like, I want to know. I want to be a fly on that wall. I'd have to be a pervert fly to be in the women's locker room, but a fly in the general area of where that conversation might take place. I want to be there. I want to see what that was like. Or did Charlotte and Tiffany go back and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. No, that was my fault. It's all good. No, we're cool. That was bad. We should go apologize to Hunter. I don't know. I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't hear about some big backstage scuffle. Tiffany going to confront Charlotte about the Kaiser line. And they start fighting. CM Punk runs in to break it up. He gets bit on his arm. While Kaiser runs in, tries to protect Larry. But we didn't get anything like that. It's kind of a bummer. So, my God, that was horrible. I think the majority of the fans are going to kind of take Tiffany's side here. I am as well. Charlotte is proving just to be a channel changer. I have just no interest. I used to have the utmost respect for her when she came in. I loved her. I defended her WrestleMania win over Asuka. I thought that it was cool that WWE had found their next Moolah, and it's someone with a last name, rich in wrestling history, Charlotte Flair, daughter of, the winningest world title wrestler of all time. She's probably going to break that record on her own. And I had no problem with WWE building her legacy, but it got to the point where she was Charlotte Hogan. Every time she came back, she was right back in there. She was winning. And I think finally when I started to say, okay, it was around WrestleMania 35. I did not care that she beat Asuka. I still don't. WrestleMania 34 did not bother me. As much as I hate Charlotte now, that match still does not bother me. WrestleMania 35 did. And that whole deal with her getting into that main event where she had no business being, and that's on WWE more than her. But that's the type of shit that turns your fans off from someone. And I do think that there is a part of the Charlotte hate, a big part of the Charlotte hate that's WWE created. She's the one receiving the blunt of this, but it's all those championships and all those victories that WWE insists on giving her that's caused these fans to react to her the way they do, and she's taking it to an even different level than Cena. Cena, I was the one advocating, saying, no, you guys are wrong about him. I know you're angry because he's just on top a lot, but that's just the predictable nature of the IWC. You're going to train. You just had that same hate for Triple H. They then transfer that hate to Roman Reigns. That's just what you guys do. But in this case, they are right. She is way overstaying her welcome. And every time she is in the ring with somebody, especially someone who is, like Tiffany said, is 25 years old, got a big career ahead of her, and she's running into this brick wall that just won't let her get anything. It's like, come on, Charlotte, you've already had your legacy. You're going to go down as the most successful women's wrestler in WWE history. You've got a statue already waiting for you when you retire. So give a little bit back. My God. at least in promos. You can't help who WWE wants to put over. You can't yell at Charlotte for not losing, okay? It's not her, it's WWE. But when it comes to like these promos and stuff, you got to be able to give and take a little bit and not try so hard to make your opponent look like a piece of shit. Even if you're a heel and like that's your job, you still have to understand, what the angle is and that this is a program and that there's give and take, and that should all, be worked out prior to when you go out there. But if they let them, if Triple H was like, oh, just go out there and run with it and ad lib, are you nuts with these two? My God. So that whole thing was really kind of off-putting. If this same segment would have happened in AEW, my God, fucking Jim Cornette would rant for fucking an hour and a half about it on his YouTube channel. So this thing was nothing but garbage between these two. It was a segment that didn't really add any interest to their match for me, unless we hear stories about there is genuine bad blood and heat. Then maybe I want to watch the match. But that whole thing didn't really make me any more excited for the match. It just makes me more concerned and worried that Charlotte probably is going to beat her and win the women's championship, and she's going to be booed unmercifully at WrestleMania if she wins, and she probably will, which kind of sucks. Anyway, moving on to the debut of Rey Fenix last night on SmackDown, defeating Nathan Frazier. They brought in one half of the NXT tag champs, who's awesome, by the way, to face Phoenix. Perfect first opponent for Phoenix. Although there was kind of a botch on the outside of the ring. Nathan Frazier came in with a tope suicida or something and did not land right and almost injured Rey Fenix. And the fans kind of got on Nathan a little bit for that botch. And you could tell he was a little bit freaked out. Oh, God, if I injure this guy, holy shit. But in the end, Rey Fenix won with the Mexican Muscle Buster. And after the match, he did an interview with Byron Saxton. This is the very same thing they did with Penta a couple months ago when he debuted on Raw. And I think he came off a little bit better on the mic than Penta did. He's got a little bit better with his English, talked about his history in Chicago, and he was very, very emotional. Even after the win, you could see through his mask that he was emotional, like after the pin. So Phoenix is finally here. I'm glad that Tony Khan decided to let him out early because we thought it would be 8 months. We thought it would be like end of the summer until we got Phoenix in the WWE. So the fact that he's there now, he seems delighted to be there, as does Penta. Happy for both of them, and a good first debut for Rey Fenix. Hopefully, he doesn't turn into Dragon Lee or something like that. Penta, I feel like, has got a really good possibility of winning the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, a really good possibility, where maybe Jacob not so much. But Phoenix, you just got to hope that they don't Dragon Lee him. That's all, because he's too good. And eventually Phoenix and Penta will link up. That's for sure. Also, last night on SmackDown, Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman finally put an end to their long saga in a last man standing match. The winner of this match was going to challenge LA Knight at WrestleMania for the U.S. title, and Jacob Fatu got the win. Big table spot, wins the match, and he will go on to WrestleMania to face LA Knight. And we talked about Jacob facing Solo at WrestleMania all the way up until a couple of weeks ago. And then I started saying, I don't think Solo is going to get a WrestleMania match. I don't think the fans give a shit about him. And Jacob at Solo at Mania, it's going to be too predictable. Jacob's going to kill him. So why even do it there? Do it after Mania. And now that it looks like the U.S. title match isn't going to be a multi-man match like we thought. I thought Solo might be in the match with Jacob. Now that it's just one-on-one, Jacob will get the title match. What I would do is have Solo come down to try to help him, fuck up, cost Jacob Fatu the match, and then you can do Jacob and Solo at Backlash. I mean, I would love to see Jacob win a championship belt and everything at WrestleMania, but he's going in there against LA Knight, who's already a babyface. I think you can capitalize on more of a moment for Jacob if he kind of turns face, and I don't know if it will really be a face or not, but if Solo screws him over and then he starts feuding with Solo and he beats him at the pay-per-view, then you give him, a championship match. Maybe you draft him to Raw and put him in there against Penta and give him the Intercontinental title. Maybe you do that. But I feel like Penta will beat Braun Breaker, but I don't think Jacob will beat LA Knight. I think Solo Sikoa is going to have something to do with that. Unless Solo comes out and helps him win, and then turn on him, and now you got Jacob and Solo for the U.S. title at Backlash. I suppose you could do that. But I feel like even though Jacob's getting the title match, he might not win. Even though you think he should, Jacob put him over huge at Mania. I feel like there's too much going on there with Solo, and the fact that we probably thought we were going to get Jacob and Solo at Mania, and now that's kind of changed, makes me feel like maybe not yet for Jacob Fatu on a belt. I would just not even worry about belting him with the US or the IC. I just build him towards the world title shot at some point. Plus, they're probably going to have to do a draft, even out these rosters a bit. And if they want to start breaking up these Samoans, you could send Jacob over to Raw. That could be fun stuff. Motor City Machine Guns won a number one contenders match last night against DIY. But I didn't hear, did they announce this match for WrestleMania, or did they just say they're getting the title shot soon? I don't know. But I think that match is going to be at WrestleMania. We'll see. LA Knight got a victory over Tama Tonga, and Naomi last night defeated B-Fab. After that, she got on the mic. And by the way, I'm loving this new persona of Naomi. That video package they ran last week was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. I love her new gear, kind of the caution Owen Hart type of deal. I like her hair. I like her demeanor. I like everything because I never really felt the glow, but I'm feeling it now. And after she beat B-Fab, she called out Jade Cargill on the mic. Jade comes out and attacks, kicks her ass. Nick Aldis comes out and announces the match officially for WrestleMania. So Jade and Naomi is official for WrestleMania. Here's what I got for WrestleMania's card so far. Let me know if I'm missing any of these matches, or if I'm missing any matches. Cody versus Cena, Gunther versus Jey Uso, Jacob Fatu versus LA Knight, Jade Cargill versus Naomi, AJ Styles versus Logan Paul, Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte, Io versus Ripley versus Bianca in a triple threat. That will likely be the match. Randy Orton against Nick Aldis, Sami Zayn, Miro or Aleister Black, or Abe Knuckleball Schwartz. Also, Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. And Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are going to face the winner of, I guess, a gauntlet match on Smackdown next week between a bunch of teams. So they'll be defending their tag team titles. And I'm not sure if the Street Profits are defending against the Machine Guns at Mania or not. I think that they are. I just haven't personally seen a match graphic yet. So that's what we got for WrestleMania. We'll take a quick pause here before we get into the AEW Dynamite and Dynasty predictions. Let me just cruise over here to the chat and see what you guys are saying in here and answer any super chats that have been coming in. Let's see. Oh, there's a bunch. Yep. I apologize in advance if I have to roll through these kind of quickly because we still have a pay-per-view to predict. It's all right. We got 35 minutes left in the podcast, so we got plenty of time. Blicky, thank you for the $5. We're dealing with a tornado warning down south, but got to watch the stream. Man, I used to live in North Carolina, the fucking tornadoes. You know, the United States gets like 95% of the world's tornadoes. It's crazy. We get them all. There's like no tornadoes anywhere else. They're all here. It's because we got those mountains on the west meeting the not mountainous part of the east. That's why half of this country is brown, half of it's green. The way that air combines and circulates and, percolates and all that stuff, it spawns tornadoes. Blicky, thinking of you, man. Tornadoes are no joke. They are scarier than hurricanes. Ryan Adams, appreciate the $10, my friend. Congrats to Naomi and Jade on having the first non-stip women's one-on-one match at a Mania since Mania 22, which was the Playboy pillow fight between Tori and Candace. Can you even count that, though? It's a Playboy pillow fight. That still had a stip, Well, I mean, you said non-stip, but kind of the Playboy pillow fight was the stip, isn't it? So I feel like that's not even accurate. I think this is the first one ever between two women that don't have a title on the line or don't have some sort of silly costume to wear, You put Naomi and Jade out there in their bra and panties. Ooh. Anyway, if you do that, then it's like you're right back to that. But this is the first match just one-on-one where no title's been on the line and they're not out there shaking their titties around. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm excited for the match, Jade and Naomi. I'm happy for them that they're getting a Mania match. I saw some people pitching them being in the main event. Let's not get stupid, okay? I'm happy that they're getting the match. I'm looking forward to it. But main event? No. Rarely even. Thank you for 5 more. WWE's not stupid. They know that nobody likes Charlotte, but they just don't care. Well, right. Yeah, I think they're going to continue to push her anyway and continue to build her legacy and have her break her dad's record and all that shit. But, man, the fans are going to be pretty brutal to her, I think, from here on out. 2 more from Ryan Adams. Owens, 2 matches in January with Jimmy and Ray. Okay, so the match maybe was against one of them. Rarely Even's got 5 more. Ricky Saints, that's right, is the new North American champion. How big of a Ricky fan are you, and do you expect big things from him? Thank you for bringing that up, because I did not mention NXT. Ricky Starks did win the North American title, and Stephanie Vaquer relinquished hers because now she's a double champion, so I think she gave up her championship so she can focus on being the NXT World Champion. Ricky Saints winning the North American title, I liked it. I was happy. I like Ricky Saints. I'm hoping for big things from him, but it just depends, you know? You don't know how things are going to hit in WWE as opposed to AEW. I mean, Ricky Starks had a good run there. He beat CM Punk in the Owen Hart finals. You know, it's not like he did nothing over there. So far, I feel like he's accomplished more in AEW than he has in WWE. But he's now the North American champion, getting a quick belt on him in NXT. It feels like they might be fast-tracking his run there. Feels like this is just a little acclimation period. That's all. Orientation. Get in the company, learn our shit, camera angles, styles, ring, that stuff. Get a feel for us, who we are, our identity. Hang out here for a couple of months, win a championship, drop it, off to Raw you go. You know, that's probably what's going on there for Ricky Starks. Hopefully it is. 5 more from Rarely Even. So nice for WWE to bring back Rusev on Rusev Day. Happy Rusev Day. Happy Rusev Day to you, Rarely Even. 5 more from Ryan. Wish Tiffany would have ended her promo with also happy birthday, Charlotte, since it's her 39th birthday today. Happy birthday, Charlotte. I was just shitting on her earlier, and now it's her birthday. Okay. So, happy birthday, Charlotte. Still don't really like you, but happy birthday. Off Leather Wings, thanks for the 2. Somehow I'm here on Saturday. Hope all is well. Glad you're here, Off Leather Wings. Don't forget, next Saturday we're going to do a prime time podcast, or maybe I keep saying prime time. It's going to be airing probably after Collision. It's going to be a nighttime podcast, and we're going to be celebrating 15 years on YouTube next Saturday. So be here and bring booze. Let's see. We got Colin Wright. Thanks for the 5, dude. 5. Well, that is not true. Bret as Jon Moxley is a lousy actor. I don't know. That Bret stuff was wild. Population too many. Did Owens partially retire last night? He might have. You know, we very well might have seen his last match. I hope not. Couple more from Rarely Even. Thanks for the 5. I would book Tiffany to retain if I were Triple H. They will boo the shit out of it, but Charlotte will take the title, unfortunately. The fans will not boo if Tiffany retains. Absolutely not. They will cheer the shit out of it if Tiffany retains. But that's going to be all up to Triple H. And Charlotte will take the title, unfortunately. She probably will. She will win and break her father's record. She'll win a couple more. That absolutely will happen. But at WrestleMania, I really hope that it doesn't. 5 more from you. Rarely Even. People were confused about how Charlotte and Becky had a falling out, but she seems to have a falling out with everyone. Yeah, Charlotte is just, like I said, she's just kind of comes off as unlikable. And we don't know Charlotte personally, and I never like to assume things about people's personality and personal lives. But sometimes you can just tell. You can just tell there's a demeanor about her that she seems like she's unlikable. Like, it seems like there's got to be a whole bunch of people in that women's locker room that can't fucking stand her. And that's just that's an assumption that I'm making, but I feel like it's a pretty solid, educated guess there. I don't think I'm pulling this out of my ass because of some blind obsession or hatred. I really feel like you can tell these things. Thank you for that, Ryan. Thanks for the $2. Fightful had an update on the situation. See if we can get a look at that real quick, because that was one thing I forgot to follow up on today, was just to see if we knew anything else about that. Here we go. This is from Fightful Select 2 hours ago. Internal reactions to Charlotte Tiffany promo. Let's just see. I'm trying to get through some of the BS. The promo turned heads as Charlotte appeared to be affected by the crowd, and Tiffany got personal, referencing Charlotte's personal life. Charlotte discussed her recent divorce from Andrade on the Sherri Shepherd show this week. After making a comment that Charlotte was 0-3 in marriages, Tiffany quickly rolled out of the ring. And that's when Charlotte shouted out the Kaiser line. Completely separate of the personal relationship elements that aren't our business and we don't care to report on, the promo was a hot topic among the women's roster since it happened. The comments were quickly edited out of the digital versions of the promo. We haven't been told outright that Tiffany and it says Tiffany and Stratton. I think it's Tiffany and Charlotte went off script by anyone involved with the segment itself, which was listed as being written by Devin Preto. However, almost everyone that watched it unfold believes it wasn't supposed to go down that way, including staff and talent. That's what I was saying earlier. For all these people, that might have been scripted. I'm like, what are you watching here? What's wrong with your ears and eyes that isn't working like ours? Because all you have to do is watch that and you can tell. Clear as day. And apparently that's been now kind of backed up here. We've not heard of any further altercation backstage, but heard that Charlotte Flair didn't appear to be pleased. A number of talent on the roster reached out and said that Charlotte is known to call audibles on promos and spots in the ring, and two talent said that Tiffany Stratton had to, quote, fight back after the side-by-side promo that seemed to Charlotte took control over. This is a very poorly worded report here. They typed it fast. One longtime WWE talent said that going at Charlotte in that manner can be daunting, but it's something every talent has to be willing to do. Another prominently booked women's talent said that it was likely that Tiffany was doing what she had to do, but the prospect of going toward Charlotte seems like a horrifying prospect for anyone that does it. There were several talent that believed WWE Charlotte and Tiffany should all lean into the angle, but it seemed like the crowd changed the trajectory of that promo. So yeah, that was a little bit of an update there, but that's kind of what we figured would be the case. And another part of me wonders, like Charlotte is so hell-bent on holding people down. Do you think like she's like half-ass manipulating Tiffany to kind of say these things, to kind of trigger her to say some outlandish line to get her in trouble? Is she that petty? I would like to think not, but man, I wouldn't rule anything out when it comes to Charlotte these days. A couple of final super chats here from Rarely Even. Thank you for the 5. Penta and Phoenix both seem super emotional about their debuts. The dream come true thing is a cliche, but it seems like it's truly for them. I agree. And 5 more. We all know we want to see Randy against the legend himself, James Ellsworth. Yeah, bring back the chin. I've always wondered how James Ellsworth folded towels. Seems like it would be really hard for him. Ryan Adams, thank you for 5. Announced for Raw, Dom vs. Penta. That's right. I knew about that. And Bayley vs. Lyer for the IC title. I knew about that too. Thanks. I just forgot. Thank you for that update there. All right, let's get into Dynamite and Dynasty. So this past week on Dynamite, they did reveal the Owen Hart tournament brackets. And let's take a look at the men's bracket first, as we see Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight, the newly signed Kevin Knight, will meet in the opening round along with Brody King, Konosuke Takeshita, Briscoe, and Fletcher on the right-hand side, along with Hangman Page and a wild card. I think that was going to be Jay White's match. So I have no idea who the wild card will be, but I feel like whoever the wild card isn't going to be anybody too special because they're going to probably lose. I think Hangman Page is going to win that unless the wild card is Swerve Strickland, who's coming in to get some revenge if Hangman Page fucks him over. So that could be possible. With the women, we've got Jamie Hayter and Billy Starks and Thunder Rosa and Chris Statlander over in the left bracket on the right-hand side. We got Julia Hart and Mercedes Moné and Harley Cameron and Athena. Athena has finally made her way to AEW, and she is going to enter this, what I expect to be a long program with Mercedes Moné that will hopefully culminate at All in July. I feel like they'll work this Owen match, and then they'll work Double or Nothing, and then they'll work All In. And hopefully the end result here is Athena winning the TBS championship from Mercedes. There's also a Ring of Honor show somewhere in May. But, if you do the Owen match here in the semifinals, that's going to be non-title. So you could have, well, I guess it doesn't matter who wins that. You could have Mercedes winning here, or they could even do something like a draw, giving the other person a bye. Then you do the match, at Double or Nothing, where maybe Mercedes wins and then Athena wins the title, all something like that. I feel like we've been waiting for this match for so long. We've been waiting for Athena to come up to the main roster for so long that they got to do some sort of big, long saga here between these women. So hopefully this will all kick off in the Owen Hart tournament. On Dynamite this past Wednesday, they opened up with this crazy mixed tornado tag with Willow and Swerve defeating Moxley and Marina Shafir, and Willow took a really nasty table bump from Marina Shafir, who tried to pick her up and slam her off the apron through the table. It did not look good, and I really hope Willow is okay. She would come back in to powerbomb Marina Shafir for the win, but after the match, a discombobulated and disoriented Jon Moxley winds up hitting Willow with a DDT and laying her out. So then the closing angle of Dynamite was great. It was Swerve looking for the Death Riders. And he runs into Renee and he's like, "Excuse me, Renee, I'm looking for your husband." And he starts going to look for the Death Riders. Hangman Page shows up from behind him and starts chasing him down. "Hey, wait a minute. You are wasting your time with the Death Riders. I told you, I promised you I would never let you hold the world title, and I'm going to keep my promise," or whatever. They're screaming at each other, right? Officials run in. They're trying to break them apart to stop the screaming. And Swerve says, or Hangman says, "You broke into my house." And then Swerve says, "You burned down my house." And then Hangman says, "You deserved it." And then Swerve says, "I know." Oh, that was good. And then Hangman kind of stopped. "What did you say?" He said, "I know I deserved it." And then Hangman leaves. Swerve then goes out to the ring. Or he's then attacked by the Death Riders, who bring him out to the ring. They bring out a pail of broken glass. And I think it's Claudio who power bombs Swerve right onto the glass as the Death Riders leave. And then Swerve gets up and he's like, "Oh, it's going to take more than that." So that was all really good. And it makes you wonder what's going to happen now in that match with Moxley at the pay-per-view. So stay tuned for my prediction on that in just a minute. Toni Storm defeated Penelope Ford, and I wanted to mention this match because of the way they set it up on Collision last week with Toni cutting her promo, and it was this really, really like tight shot on the camera. And then Penelope, you just see this boot come in and smack Toni right in the face, and then Penelope right in front of the camera. That was one of the coolest camera shots I've ever seen in my life in pro wrestling. Really cool stuff there. Toni beat Penelope as Megan Bayne came out to kind of watch the festivities at the end. Good stuff there. MJF and the Hurt Syndicate are still working out their deal. Their little promo did not reveal anything, although I wonder if MJF is going to make his presence known in their tag title match tomorrow. The Learning Tree did win a squash. Brian Keith and Big Bill getting a win. Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight teamed up to beat Blake Christian and Lee Johnson. Brody King had a fun, meaty men slap and meat match with Lance Archer, and Copeland defeated Claudio, all on Wednesday's Dynamite. Also, with Copeland and Rated FTR, there was a segment backstage with FTR where Dax paid Paul Turner $10,000 for putting his hands on him. He tried to apologize to Cash Wheeler, who isn't really ready to hear it yet. And you know that this trios match is not going to go well, and I have a theory on what might happen there. Tonight's Collision, by the way, was taped on Wednesday. That goes live in about an hour and a half. You're going to get Mike Bailey versus Dralistico, Mercedes and Harley Cameron teaming up to face Julia Hart and Athena, Powerhouse Hobbs and Tomohiro Ishii taking on Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher, Cash Wheeler against Pac, Top Flight versus CRU, the Max Caster Open Challenge, and we got to sit down with Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia ahead of their Dynasty match tomorrow. Rarely Even's got $10 for us, and he says Chris Jericho just in an interview where he said he would certainly consider returning to WWE. Is this Jericho saving face and trying to stay relevant in the business, or is he genuine? I think he's genuine. I don't think for as much as Jericho is done for AEW, I don't feel like Jericho's ever had any ill will towards the WWE. That's a big part of his career. That's where he made the most success. He even, while he's been in AEW, was a guest on Broken Skull Sessions. I think Jericho and the WWE's relationship is fine. I don't think there's any issues there whatsoever. So I could totally see Jericho going back at some point in the future. Yes. All right, let's predict Dynasty. Now, like I said, I might not have every match here because there might be something on the 0 hour. So I just have kind of the 9 main matches. We're going to start with the 2 Owen Hart tournament matches. Will Ospreay versus Kevin Knight. Come on. Will Ospreay will get the win there. Same thing here. Mercedes Moné against Julia Hart. This is an opening round match for the Owen. And Athena is on the same side of the bracket as Mercedes. So Mercedes absolutely has to win here so she can face Athena in the semifinals. So Mercedes over Julia Hart is my prediction there. The Hurt Syndicate defending the tag team titles against Big Bill and Brian Keith. You know, obviously I want to say Hurt Syndicate all the way here, but do you think MJF could come out and fuck something up for them? I don't think so. I feel like Hurt Syndicate could retain, and I think I might know who they're going to drop the titles to. So stay tuned for that. The just mentioned Chris Jericho defending his Ring of Honor championship against Bandito in a title versus mask match. This has to be Bandito. Jericho's been Ring of Honor champion long enough, and let's go ahead and end that, please. and I'm predicting Bandito to get the win over Jericho in that match. Daniel Garcia defending his TNT championship against Adam Cole. You almost forget that Daniel Garcia is the TNT champion. I love him. I think he's a fantastic talent, but while he's been champion, he's not done much for that championship, and it's really diminished that title. It has fallen from grace lately. And Garcia, like I said, he's a great talent, but man, I just think that's about it. He's a great wrestler, and great wrestlers are everywhere. He's got a cute little dance move. You do want to root for him. He is somebody that you want to root for, and I do, and I was happy that he won the TNT title, but I see no reason to continue it at this point, especially since they've already had a draw and a no contest. This is going to have to be Adam Cole's match to win. I think there's a no interference stip in this as well. So Adam Cole is going to have to get the win and become the new TNT champion. And it will be, I believe, his first championship in the company since arriving, 3-4 years ago? How long has it been? Man, oh man. Here's the one I think is interesting. The Death Riders defending their trios championships against Rated FTR. All sorts of dissension right now in Rated FTR. It feels like it's heavily focused on Dax. He's the one making the mistakes. He's the one pissing people off. He's the one with the attitude. So you have to wonder, like, who's going to do what to who here? You know, who's going to turn on whom? What are they going to do? And what I think is probably going to happen is, number one, Death Riders are going to retain. They're going to capitalize on the dissension. But I can't see FTR going singles. You know, it just feels like there would be no room for them in AEW in the singles division. They are much more likely to see success as a tag team in my mind because of their already very storied legacy. Now, if they want to personally go off into singles and that's their own personal goals, then fine. I'll root for them and hope for the best. But I feel like they're a tag team. You know, they're a tag team. So I can't see Dax turning on both of these guys and then going off and being a singles wrestler. What I can see happening is FTR turning on Cope together. And somebody brought this up on Twitter to me like on Wednesday or something. I think it was during Dynamite when I was asking about the show. I was at work. And I saw it floating around then, and I really like it. What I would do is I would have FTR turn on Copeland together in this match, either after the match or during the match. It doesn't really matter, but probably after if they lose. Then finally, maybe Cash sees Dax where he's coming from and says, okay, now I get it. Fuck this guy. And they attack him. Injure him. Knock him out of action for a little while. Then they go after the tag team titles. And they win them. They beat the Hurt Syndicate for the tag team titles with help from MJF, who just shows up and maybe fucks something up, or maybe it's an accident. Whatever he does, it screws the Hurt Syndicate. FTR wins the tag team championships, and they hold those tag team championships until All In, when Edge and Christian reunite and win those tag team titles at All In. That's what they should do. And I feel like Christian and Cope being tag team champions again, right at the end of their careers like this, would be great. It would be great for the fans. It would be great for them. Christian has already pissed away that contract. He's already had that brutal feud with Edge or with Cope. Nothing left to do now but reunite them. So I would have FTR. I would have Rated FTR. Excuse me. Rated FTR loses tomorrow. After the match, FTR, both of them turn on Adam Cope and beat him down and knock him out of action for a few weeks. Then FTR targets the tag team championships. They get a match with the Hurt Syndicate. MJF is out to be a part of that thing, screws over the Hurt Syndicate, whether it be intentionally or unintentionally. FTR is your new tag team champions. They go into All In to face Cope and Christian for the titles. That's what I would do. So I think that all gets set in motion tomorrow. Kenny Omega defending his international championship against Ricochet and Speedball Mike Bailey. You know, the writing is on the wall here with Kenny and Okada. Unification match at All In. The only way Kenny loses here is if Tony Khan decides that he doesn't want to unify those titles, and then you can pass the title over to Ricochet or a Speedball Mike Bailey. But I don't see that happening. I feel like Kenny Omega will get the win. I don't know who he's going to pin here. Ricochet's relatively new, and Speedball's really new. Don't know who you protect there. I might pin Speedball, but I also might pin Ricochet. Either way, Kenny is getting the win. Toni Storm defending her AEW Women's Championship against Megan Bayne. Megan Bayne has been put over like a monster. AEW's done a great job of making her seem like a very credible challenger to Toni Storm, but I think that's all she is. I think Toni Storm is the most popular wrestler in the company. She is their number one. And what do you do with your number ones? You line up people for them to beat. So she's going to be holding that title for a little while longer. She's not going to drop it here. Everything that she's done with Bane, getting pinned by Bane, that's just to have Toni Storm be able to overcome this mountain, this obstacle, and get a big win as the champion. And she's going to retain over Megan Bane. And that leaves us, unless I missed one, that leaves us with the main event, Jon Moxley defending the AEW title, or defending the AEW briefcase against Swerve Strickland. I see one of two things happening here. I want nothing more than for Swerve to win. But it feels like whatever Death Riders payoff they're waiting for, it isn't time yet. There's too much stuff going on. And they went through the trouble of doing that angle backstage with Swerve and Hangman, where Hangman might now have a change of heart. He's hell-bent on making sure that Swerve does not win that title. And he told him a couple of weeks ago, I have no problem interfering with your match. I'll do it. You are not going to win that championship again. But once Swerve kind of atoned for what he did, I know I deserved it. It's like it immediately had Hangman maybe have a change of heart. So this is a tough one to predict because I feel like Moxley's probably going to retain because of Hangman Page. But you can do this in a couple of ways and make it work. You can do it that you now have a way for Swerve to win. My big issue earlier is like, well, if Swerve wins, I feel like he is, if Swerve wins, I feel like it's just rushed. They might have to pivot because the fans are being so loud. Tony Khan in the media call said he doesn't really think there's a problem with this Death Riders angle, and they like where it's going. But the fans don't, and he would have to almost change his creative plans to put Swerve over here. But there's one way you can do it to where it would be really awesome. You incorporate Hangman Page. A lot of people are now feeling, based on what they saw last night, Hangman Page isn't going to come out tomorrow and try to screw Swerve. He's going to come out and try to help him, but fuck up, allowing Moxley to win, and then you got Swerve and Hangman set for another battle. But what I think might be equally cool is if Hangman comes out, and because Hangman, the things going on in his head and the story and the conflict, even after the big match with Swerve where he stuck the syringe in, remember when he was walking away from that match, the way he was looking back, like he almost felt bad that it had to go that far? Hangman has a conscience. There's a human being in there, no matter how crazy he is. So what I can see Hangman doing is coming out to the ring, even while he's walking out there, not knowing what he's going to do. And you could have a situation, this would be so epic. You could have a situation where Hangman is in the ring, you can tell he doesn't know what to do, and he's got Moxley and Swerve both there, primed and ready, and he's got a chair in his hand, and he's looking at both of them. And they both stand up, and they're both wobbly, and they're both bloody, and he's got a decision, and he goes to hit Swerve, turns, bam, nails Moxley. Flat out right in the face with a fucking chair. And then Swerve is surprised, and he's wobbly, he's bloody, and he's looking at Hangman, and Hangman and Swerve just stare at each other. And Hangman leaves. And this can be after a bunch of Death Rider interferences happen. Like Swerve is at a clear disadvantage here. It's 5-on-1. So it's not like he's cheating to win this. Hangman's coming out there. They're both kind of laying there, and he has to decide who to hit, and then he hits Moxley, and then just leaves. Swerve wins. And then maybe it's like Hangman up on the stage Hangman up on the stage or Hangman up in the crowd with him and Swerve locking eyes with Swerve celebrating as the new champion. And he's looking at Hangman knowing he's the man he has to thank. I like that idea. And I really would like to see that happen tomorrow. But I also think that this whole thing with Hangman is done to set up a way for Moxley to retain. So if Swerve is going to win, what I just set up is how I'd like to see it happen. With Hangman coming down there, not knowing what he's going to do, and then finally deciding, nope, I can't let this happen, hits Moxley. Even though it's very personal and he's very conflicted about it, he knows in his heart he's doing the right thing, and Swerve wins. And then that story between those two is amazing. Now you've got, now what? Between them. He helped them win. Now they're aligned with each other. I still feel like we might need one more match, and we might get that. Maybe with them being aligned with each other, Swerve was like, I helped you win that. Now you're going to give me a title shot, motherfucker. And then Hangman can be like, well, win the Owen. And then you got it. And then he goes in as a wild card against him. Yeah. Hangman's in the fucking tournament. So I can see, like, if Swerve loses, then maybe he demands to be the wild card, because that's who Hangman's opponent is, right? The wild card. So if Hangman costs Swerve, then Swerve enters the Owen and he faces Hangman in the opening round. That's kind of fucking weird too. So I don't know, but I'm going to predict. I'm making a prediction that I hope is wrong. I hope I'm dead wrong, but I'm going to predict Jon Moxley to retain. I predicted Jon Moxley to retain at Revolution. And then when he didn't, people were like, this is bullshit. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't want Cope to be the world champion. Why do you? Do you really hate this angle so much? You're like, just put the belt on a fucking security guy, anything that's not Jon Moxley? I think that's a little bit extreme. I don't think this angle is that bad to the point where you're like, put it on Tony Schiavone. That's crazy. So you don't want to just end it for the sake of ending it. Hopefully the payoff, whatever the end game is here for this, hopefully it lands or it sticks. But now you've got an opportunity to have Moxley retain while protecting Swerve. Or if you're ever going to pivot, you got the deal with Hangman in the chair where he decides who to hit and he hits Moxley and Swerve wins. That's what I want to happen. But it's not what I think is going to happen. I think Moxley is going to find a way to retain again. Man, part of me wants to change because Death Riders are already picking up a win. They're going to beat Rated FTR. So is it going to be another clean sweep for the Death Riders? Man, I really want to pick Swerve. I really want to pick Hangman helping him. Because one of the things they could have done in that promo, that could have been, or that backstage confrontation on Dynamite, that could have been AEW's way of letting us know that Hangman isn't going to prevent Swerve. He's going to help him. But a lot of fans had immediately sniffed out, oh, he's going to try to help him, but then it's going to fuck up. I'm going to change my pick. I'm probably wrong, but I don't care. I'm going to predict Swerve Strickland to beat Jon Moxley. I think Hangman Page is going to help him win. I'm wrong about that. I know I am. But I'm just trying to be I'm trying to manifest this, because I'm sick of Moxley and I'm sick of the briefcase. I'm sick of all that. You know what I would love? I would love, if during the match, Marina Shafir's on the outside of the ring and she's done something to Swerve. And then from the crowd, she's grabbed from behind, being choked. Who's she being choked by? Brie Bella. And then the crowd starts roaring. Camera cuts to the ring. Danielson is on the top rope. In with a missile dropkick. Moxley's holding the bat with nails in it. Missile dropkick into the bat. Nails go into the face of Moxley. He's dead. Swerve pins him, wins the match. Danielson comes out and helps him win. That could be fun. You could do some stuff here for Dynasty. But I feel like if they're going to have Moxley retain, that's fine. But you have to understand the nature of the fans, and they are going to shit their pants over this. It's so Tony Khan, you got to be prepared. Got to be prepared. Pray for rain. You got to be willing to deal with the mud too. And a lot of people, if you have Moxley retaining, that's the mud is going to be the fans being pissed. So we'll see. But I think I'm going to try to be optimistic this time around. I'm going to pick Swerve. I know I'm wrong, but I'm going to pick him anyway. So just to recap. Will Ospreay over Kevin Knight, Mercedes over Julia Hart, Hurt Syndicate over The Learning Tree, Bandito over Jericho, Cole over Daniel Garcia, Death Riders to beat Rated FTR, Kenny Omega to retain over Ricochet and Speedball, Tony Storm to retain over Megan Bayne, and Swerve to win the AEW title at the same place he won it last year, defeating Jon Moxley. And I know for a fact I'm wrong about that. But I'm still predicting it because I feel like if I just predict it, it'll happen. Because when it comes to AEW pay-per-views, I am a great predictor. I am usually get all the matches right. If I miss anything, it's one, maybe two at the worst. So I'm usually good at these things. So maybe if I predict Swerve, it'll happen. If Swerve wins tomorrow, I would like to take all of the credit, if that's okay. Thank you for that, guys. And thank you for being here today. I got to sign off in just a couple of minutes, but before we do, let me knock out a couple of more of these super chats here before we leave. 10 more from Rarely Even. I hope Will Ospreay wins the Owen and then eventually the AEW title. I kind of do too. I like Will, but saying you're the greatest wrestler in the world only goes so far if you don't have a world title to show for it. Well, that's why he will get a world title at some point. He absolutely will. Even people who don't have world titles say they're the best in the world. What's that guy's name? Phil Brooks. I forgot. He wrestles for WWE. Phil something. He says that. So yeah, that's fine. But he will be a world champion because Will Ospreay is a world champion material. Colin Wright has been hooked up with a common gift, good mic work membership from the Juliet 316. Thank you, as always, for that, Juliet. Ryan Adams, damn, Edge is considered now a security guard. No, he's not. I love Adam Copeland. Ryan, thanks for the 5. Wildcard is usually a returning star or a new signee. Past wildcards were Johnny TV and Hangman himself. I know, but is the one thing help me out with, because I'm not totally sure, is the wildcard Jay White spot? Because then it just feels like they got to just throw somebody in there, and it's not going to be some big, huge return. Or the wildcard is there for a storyline purpose. But Hangman Page is the opponent, and you would think that Hangman, unless he costs Swerve, and now Swerve is pissed, and Swerve costs Hangman his opening round match, and then you get Swerve and Hangman at Double or Nothing. Because that's where the Owen finals are going to happen, is at Double or Nothing. So if Swerve costs Hangman, they can face each other at Double or Nothing. That could happen as well. Hangman could definitely cost Swerve. I'm probably wrong about my prediction. Juliet's got $5. Has anybody talked about Sammy possibly stepping in and fighting Orton in Owens' place at WrestleMania? Yeah, I did earlier. I mentioned Sammy as a possibility. I could see it because I want Sammy on the show. And I mentioned that they could probably write it in a way that would make sense, for sure. It could definitely happen. Oh, Knight is, okay, thank you for that, Shell Shock. Knight is in Jay White's spot. So the wild card was always there. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. So that kind of changes things. With that wild card intending to be there, and that's not where Jay White was, it could be Swerve. It could be Swerve if Hangman costs him. Yeah. We will find out together tomorrow night. Don't forget to join us tomorrow evening. We'll be here about 10 minutes before the main show goes live. Link is already up. I showed you guys that earlier. And thank you for being here today on this lovely Saturday. I got to head out of here now and get to work. But I appreciate all of the support today. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for everything. Make sure you're here for Dynasty tomorrow night because it should be fun to find out what's going to happen. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday afternoon and evening, and I'll be catching you tomorrow for the PPV. Peace.